Welcome to Hat Day in the workshop. I just unboxed a new order that I received in, and I have about 70 to 80 hats here on the table. Today's orders will consist of a batch of 20 of various colors, and then a batch of 30 of one design and one color. What I want to do though is not bore you guys with, let's just look at the hats and embroider. I would rather bring you guys along as a Sam's tips and tricks, best practices for business setups, things I'm going to do to set myself up for success with the machine, and then talk about the more technical aspects of what it means to fulfill an order of this size as one guy in a shop with one machine. First step, turn on the machine, set it up, make sure your hat driver's installed, and find your machine origin. That's nothing fantastic. What I'm about to do though is what I do want to show you first. I pulled the bobbin out of my machine, and this is my hat bobbin case. I know that because I have laser engraved and marked them with letter H and F. H for hats, F for flats. And I did that because I tensioned the bobbin cases to different settings based upon hats or flats. So what I want to do first up, to set myself up for success, is to get my TOA digital tension gauge and double check the tension with my bobbin case. These things can get out of whack, especially if you drop them or just of general use, wear and tear, and it's always a good thing before you start a batch to set them up and make sure they're correct. As far as what setting or what tension number to use, there are a ton of schools of thought out there, and it's probably going to vary between your machine, your model, your thread, and your personal preferences. What I personally like to shoot for is a value of 33 gram force units for the bobbin case, and somewhere around 160 to 170 gram force units for my top thread. That is a number that I found to work best for my machine, my thread, and my setup, so it may not be exactly what you use in your case. A school of thought that I've heard out there is that you want your top thread 5 times stronger or a higher number than your bobbin case. That may or may not be the case, may be great advice, may be terrible, so take it for what it's worth. When it comes to bobbin thread, I purchase pre-wound, ready to go, get them in a box bobbin thread, but I purchase a good quality. This is Samcraft name brand polyester bobbin thread. I'll put a link to this specific kind that I use down below in case you want to try it out. Maybe you're not happy with your bobbin thread, or maybe you're wondering, I don't know, Sam likes it, maybe it's okay. Let me know. Or better yet, let me know if what you use is better than what I'm using. That would be a great thing for me. So if you can do that, I'd appreciate it. I have a video that I will put a link down below to on how to use this gauge, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the whats and whys. So check that out. Otherwise, let's check our tension, make sure we're good. Then we're going to oil the machine. Then we'll load the bobbin case in there and consider that portion of the work done. But then we'll move on to the next step of machine prep. With our bobbin case properly tensioned, we have a new spool of bobbin thread loaded up, and the machine has been oiled. The next step that I'm going to take for success, changing out needles. Now I'm not going to change out all 15 needles on my machine. I'm only going to do the ones that correspond to the thread colors I'll be using today, and I'm doing that because, well, 2 reasons. One, I'm bad to not keep track of when I change my needles. I kind of have been doing it in a, well, that one's kind of dull, swap it out. Great, let's keep going. And 2, a fresh needle will make all the difference, and in my case should set me up for even more success today as I run through these 50 hats. Needles themselves are cheap. They are a consumable with embroidery, and you can get like a pack of 100 of these for 20 bucks, so don't be shy about changing your needles. Don't get too attached to them. It's okay. You can change them out, and then you have the new feeling of, fresh needles in your machine. It's nothing like the smell of them either. as far as needle size, needle type, and needle brand, what I personally like to use is Grows Beckart needles. They are an FFG SES combination needle, kind of a good all-purpose needle. And as far as the size, this is going to be dictated by your thread. So some thread manufacturers, such as Candle, some forms of Madeira, will want a different size needle. So first and foremost, check with them. But otherwise, I like to run a 7511 needle. It's pretty common. It's very standard for polyester thread like we run in the machines. But again, check with your thread manufacturer because they may want something different. Do not be afraid to bust out a flashlight and feel like you're old and can't see, because doing this, while your pride may suffer just a little bit, you're going to be able to see whether or not you have your needles aligned, fully seated, and just correct overall. So much easier. So don't be scared. Bust out the flashlight. People may laugh at you. That's alright. Our feelings will probably get better. It's worth it because you want to have top quality results. So this is definitely one of the accessories you wouldn't normally think about with embroidery. This is definitely Sam's, so highly recommend it. Although I need to upgrade to like a little magnetic one that's not as large, but whatever. Using what you have and using what works. Alright, I hear you guys. Great, Sam, you changed your needles. Hey, while you're there, what thread do you use? What thread do you like? You mentioned Candle, you mentioned Madeira, and I think your machine came with something else. What are you currently running? Well, this is going to take us down a little rabbit hole, but hey, it's what you're here for, I guess, right? So when I first got my machine, it came with the default thread that you get with the machine, and it was New-Bro Thread name brand, because that is a company that's, they either hold hands or they're the same family as Smartstitch. A little bit down the road of using my machine, I had a customer order that wanted some custom colors, and I thought at that point, you know what, I'm going to assume that what comes with the machine is probably not the top tier best quality, so let's go ahead and find what other people are using. Let's look what's out there, spend some money, why not, and try and get the best quality as we can. So I purchased a set of Madeira threads, and then I later purchased a set of Candle threads. Both Madeira and Candle are highly reputable companies. They are great quality. They are used by a lot of professionals, so I'm not knocking them at all. However, what I'm about to share with you is that I purchased a pack of New-Bro thread as well. That's actually what I'm about to load up on my machine. The reason I did that is because as I have used my machine, I've created products, I've done a lot of stitches already, I have never noticed a difference in quality, in reliability, in strength, durability, or just anything ility between New-Bro thread, Madeira, and Candle. So for me, I'm just going to run New-Bro thread because it is a very affordable thread. It is available in the large spools. I can get it super quick through Amazon, and I know through trial and error that it works great on my machine. Again, the other manufacturers' materials are great. I'm not saying New-Bro thread is the best. I have just not found a really strong reason to convert completely over to one of the others, and I'm going to stick with what works because as few variables as I can throw into this wrench machine of a workshop that I've got, the better success and time we'll have. Well, I think I was hoping to show you guys something cooler with this giant, I think 80 spool pack that I got, but the colors I'm looking for were right here up front. So I want to pick a different shade of green that matches the customer's thread color choice and load that up, and I think that's all I have to do. So that was entirely uneventful, and I'm sorry because I thought that was going to be a lot cooler than it turned out in reality. Hashtag story of my life. Alright, so we have leaf green, Christmas green, and Kelly. I think leaf green is what we're going for. For that is spool 509, or color 509. Cool. Actually, I'm going to keep this out. That's nice. As far as color change out, I'm going to be removing this green Madeira thread. I give myself about that much slack. Go ahead, snip the color, move it out of the way, put the new one up there in its spot, and then pull the thread off of the spool to begin. Alright, so to connect old thread and new thread, I'm just going to pull them off here, and then taking the ends of the thread, just do a nice little quick square knot type hitch knot, whatever. I ain't got a clue what this is called, guys, but tying the ends together just like that. Snip off the excess, and now I have created one single chain, or I guess thread, that I can pull through the machine, and it's a lot faster this way to rethread colors. Alright, I think we are ready, guys. So off camera, I used my digital tension gauge, double check that green thread since we did swap it out. I think I've done everything. So we have checked the tension on the bobbin case, we have put new bobbin thread in, we've oiled the machine, we changed out all the needles that correspond to the colors we're going to run today, changed out my thread, and then double checked the tension there as well. At this point, I think we're ready to go ahead and load up our cap hoop, our hat hoop. It's not a driver, whatever, the frame. Put the hat on here and start running our jobs. And we're finally off and running. So 11:35 a.m. That's the start time. I'll write it down somewhere. I want to know how long it takes me to run, we'll say, the first batch of 30. And I also want to keep track of how many times I have thread break issues, thread shred, needle break, that kind of thing. Just from a pure, I don't know, let's gather some statistics, let's have fun somehow with this. So let me get a notepad, write all this stuff down. Now, like I said, I'm not going to drag you guys along to see all of these done. So as things happen or events unfold, you know me, I'll yak at you. Otherwise, let's get our notepad, take our notes, and let's skip ahead, right? Because you don't want to stand here the whole time that I'm here running these hats today. That being said, Sam's number one tip for all shop, big TV. Sam's number two tip, mini fridge. Maybe two of them if you need be. Alrighty, time to turn on some YouTube, kick back, and hopefully just watch this thing run, right? Not mess with anything. One hat down, successful, looks beautimous. While that was running, I had the other one loaded in the cap driver over here, or cap station. Sorry guys, I mess up terms quite a lot. So this guy's already ready to rock and roll. We'll load it up and press start. One thing real quick, according to the Smartstitch, total stitch time is 9 minutes, 6 seconds per hat. So we could do some math and figure out how long I'm probably going to be here. But there is some downtime of swapping hats and, well, Sam yaks a lot. So we'll see real time. Alright, bear with me with the noise. I'm going to try and talk loud so maybe the microphone hears me more than the machine, but you guys are like right beside it. So I just got this one off the first cap frame. Uh-oh. Let's see what happened. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything too bad, guys. My assumption, because I wasn't over here watching it, is that there was a trim function right before this, so it moved the hat, went to start the next letter, which are kind of small, and it probably just didn't pick up the thread or something at the first go, and it, you know, freaked out. So, no big deal. Rethread it, go back a couple of stitches to where we begin with this portion, hit start, and we should be good. Okay, so where were we? I think I was talking about hats. Imagine that. So I just got this one off the cap frame. I loaded up my next one. I now have this one ready to go. So what I'm going to do while I wait is go ahead and work on cleaning up the stabilizer. I do tearaway stabilizer on my hats. Even though they're structured, I always do stabilizer. So I'm going to tear this off, make sure it looks good, check all of my threads, make sure it looks good here as well. And then I'll use my heat gun just to hit lightly to kind of make those threads tighten up a little bit, give it that ooh, ah factor, make it look nice. And then once it's all good and done, inspected, put the cardboard hat insert back in there, fold it up, and put it in the done pile, which hopefully grows pretty quickly today. So there is a loop in this green portion. I'll see if I can zoom in. It's not bad, but there's a little bit of a loose thread. So what I'm going to use is a tool, especially a needle, called a Snag Nab-It. It's the needle that you put through your object, pull it through, and it's got burrs on the back end of it, and it will snag any kind of loose threads, nab them, and pull them through. It's an amazing little guy that in this instance is a lifesaver, because it goes from quality to good quality, and I don't have to do anything major.
This is one that we're going to use here in a second, the SVG black tattoo file. It doesn't create tattoo files, but it creates this amazing vector art. It's not quite a vector, you still got to convert it, but it's like just right for turning into a vector for engraving. So I've got my file opened up.
So as you guys are able to see there, just for this small little clip, a lot of the time that I'm out here, I mean, I'm doing a little bit of back and forth loading hats as they get on and off, but I also spend time watching some of my favorite YouTube channels. Currently, this is Laser Engraving 911. It's the newest video he put out about laser resources, which is a really good video. So I know this is an embroidery video, but my channel, if you know my channel, I got lasers, embroidery machines, machine over there in the corner I hadn't talked about yet, all sorts of stuff. So I'm gonna put his video in the link down below. And I'll go ahead and tag other channels that I really enjoy watching, learning from, getting inspiration from, and just further share in case you've not heard of them or don't follow them. I definitely am jinxing myself by talking on camera. It's thread break number 2 on hat number 5, so not too bad. But I definitely like sharing information and helping you guys, because that's what I do. Alright, we'll fix that thread break. That thread break was exact same spot as the first one we had. So at this point, I don't know, maybe it's a digitization thing. It's kind of missing the pickup. I'm a little bit less inclined to think that because I've had several others work fine, no problems. It's probably just the nature of small font, moving around the hat, getting it low on the frame. I don't know. It's nothing that I'm going to chase down at this point because like I said, it's only happened twice so far out of 7 hats. And it's in the exact same spot, which makes me bleed, you know, makes my mind think, okay, it's not a needle issue, not a tension issue, it's probably file related or just how things are set up from a more physical standpoint. So, either way, getting another tick on Sam's scrap paper to track how things are going, but I'm not going to worry about chasing it down that rabbit hole because I don't think it's going to be worth my while. Alright guys, this is hat number 10, so I'm officially 1/3 of the way through this one particular order, and things are going pretty well. At least, I think they're going well until I look at my sheet here, and it looks like I'm having thread breaks on every other hat. At least statistically, that's what it works out to be. But the hat before this was just extra ornery. At this point, I am for sure certain that it's something to do with the digitization because it's that same area that's having problems, but it also at this point doesn't make any sense to try and contact the digitizer who did this file for me, tell them I got issues, wait for a response. It's just easier just to get through the thread breaks and keep going. So it is what it is at this point. It's one of those examples of, yeah, okay, the file is possibly incorrect, or I don't know. The beginning of that letter P is just where the issue is. Sure, you could nitpick, you could try and get it fixed, but it just makes more sense just to bear through it to get the customer their order sooner. Now this is going to be a repeat customer. Okay, at least I hope and expect them to be a repeat customer. So once this order is done, what I'm going to do, honestly, is I'll take the file that I did have digitized by someone else, I'll open it up into Hatch, which is my digitization software, and I'll inspect that one element myself and see if I can figure out what the issue is. I am getting better and better with digitization as I go along. This is one that I sent to a digitizing company pretty early on in my embroidery journey, I guess you could say. So I didn't do it myself, but they always send you the EMB file. Okay, the one I use sends you the file if you request it and want it, and so it's great to have it to tweak, not only from a design aspect like I'm talking about, but also from a size aspect. I got it from them as one size, and then I was able to scale it up and down within Hatch. That's the best way to do it, not the machine scaling, and get different sizes and variations. So, win-win. Either way, 1/3 of the way done, and we are exactly 2 hours of runtime, or working time rather. That's not too bad. Although it means I have at least 4 more hours to go. Guys, that is it. The last hat for this customer's job. So while I started off today possibly saying I was going to do all 50 hats, there's no way. It's not going to fit in the day. So let me clean this last guy up, and then I'll show you guys the couple of casualties we had and talk about overall numbers and just basically close this thing out. Well, 8.5 hours later, and we are finally done with the 30 hats. Now, the full 8.5 hours was not all work. There was about an hour break taken in there, lunch break / check on the kiddos and do a couple of errands around the house. So total 7.5 hours, maybe 7 hours solid worth of work. It's quite a lot. That's a whole lot. I was very ambitious thinking I could get this order of 30 done plus the order of 20. Yeah, not gonna happen with the single head machine, I don't guess. Not unless I want to work a lot longer days. And that's not the name of being self-employed. Okay, well, if you have to, you do it. But today, I don't have to, so I won't. So looking at my tally sheet on the number of thread breaks, I quit counting at 12. I think it was around hat number 20 or so. I kept noticing just bad, consistent issues with the white thread. So I said, you know what? The needle's probably getting dull. It's done 20 hats. There is predominantly white thread on this design. Let's go ahead and swap it out. See if that makes a difference. It really did. I don't think I had but maybe one thread breakage after that. And then that was also related to a bird's nest that we decided to build. Speaking of bird's nest, we had 2 casualties, 2 throwaways in this whole project, which is why you always want to order more than the number the customer orders. The first one is this guy. You can see things got a little bit squirrely right here, but on the inside, let's see if it shows up. Not really. On the inside right there, we've got some evidence of bird nesting, but honestly the majority of the bird's nest was in the machine. If you don't know what bird's nesting is, it's when something happens with your thread, it starts to get tangled up, jumbled up, and builds what looks like a bird's nest down inside your machine. So this had to be cut out. The machine had to be taken apart with the little foot cover and all that down there, clean it out, and it's okay. It is what it is. I think that is my fault because I forgot to oil it once I changed bobbins. Speaking of bobbins, I went through about 2.5 bobbins of this whole job, and I counted up the number of stitches, and this hat job of 30 hats was around 187,000 stitches. So there's some data. Do with it what you want. The other casualty that happened was a little bit of new trainee error. So if you noticed a couple clips here and there, you'll have seen someone else in here working. That's my oldest son. He showed an interest and he was like, hey, can I help you? And I said, you know what? I think you're old enough. Let me train you on the art of hooping hats, loading them into the machine, aligning the needle, taking them out, and all the stuff that, well, I would rather not do. So he happily jumped in and he learned super quick. The only oops he had was with this hat, which visually here you don't see anything until you look inside. And yes, he forgot to move the sweatband out of the way when he hooped it up. So I told him it was okay, it's no big deal. He felt bad. I said, don't worry. It's the reason that if the customer orders 30, I order 38. There's room for error and you're learning. So don't beat yourself up. He was fine with it. He said, well, what do we do with the hat? Do we give it to him? I said, nope, you earned yourself a hat. No, actually, I'll just keep this one. I'm going to very quickly need like a display shelf in my shop so that when customers or prospective customers come by or ask me for examples of work, well, that's where something like this is invaluable to me. It is a true real-life example of my work. It is not good enough for the customer to use because of the inside irregularities, but visually will be perfect. So always hang on to your stuff like this. If nothing else, even with this hat, you can stitch out and play around with new designs. You know, it's not going to work here, but you got lots of other usable areas. You bought the hats, so you might as well save them. All in all, I call this a very successful day. While it was a long day in the workshop, it was still very productive. Literally productive. I got the customer's order done. I did not have any major issues, and I had the bonus time of hanging out with my son and him learning a new skill. So that is however many number of wins you want to stack up. That's what today was. Call it a pretty good day in the shop. If you guys got any questions or comments about this particular video, anything you saw, didn't cover, anything you have questions about, leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching as always. Thanks for sticking around. If you're still here at this point, leave me a comment that says, don't forget the sweatband. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.